All right, we got a fun little video here for you. And there's been a ton of trade talk, and everybody loves a good trade rumor. And so I think the question that I want to ask all of you right now, load the comments. Just destroy the comment section on this. Reply to each other. Have some fun with this. Which player do you most want to see the Detroit Lions trade for at the trade deadline? All right. You can put a player, you can put Stan Pat, you can do whatever you want with this. If you're feeling real sparky, then you can go ahead and say what you'd give up for said player. So let's check some of this stuff out. Who would you most want to? The Detroit Free Press. And this is honestly, this is a really cool article. This was Jared Ramsey, and he just went through and compiled what all different news sources are saying they would like to see the trade, what trade they'd like to see most for the Detroit Lions. So you give me yours in the comments. I will tell you what other people are saying, local and national, and then I'll tell you what I would like to see the Detroit Lions trade for, and we can kind of go from there. So yeah, so Dave Burkett broke down some potential trade targets. We've talked about this already. The Detroit Free Press, the big one that they are saying is outside linebacker / edge Brian Burns. And there are a ton of edge players out there. I'm wondering if this is going to bring the market up or down, to be completely honest with you. I'm not sure exactly what this is going to do. We talked about Brian Burns as probably being the best edge available, at least as far as production and potential are concerned. I think Danielle Hunter has maybe been, he's had a couple of the best years as far as sack production goes, but Brian Burns is younger and he has shown that he has the talent to be absolutely elite. So I think that is a good one. And I understand that. Just remember, this is going to come with a hefty price tag. This is a guy that's going to cost you somewhere around 4 or 5 years. And if it's 4 years, it's going to be in the 100 million range. And if it's 5 years, it's going to be in $125 million range to keep him. All right. Just remember that. Just remember that. All right. So, yes, he's the best player, but he will cost the most, and you will have to pay the most to keep him. All right. NFL.com wants us to see getting Colts safety Julian Blackman. I am not going to take a lot of time at this. NFL.com suggested that the Lions address the injuries in the secondary with a trade for Indy safety Julian Blackman. Here's the problem. Our safety play has been good. Okay. Tracy Walker has been serviceable as a starter. Joseph, you know what you get out of him. And Ifeatu Melifonwu, when he came in, he was all good. Safety is not the position we need as much. I could be wrong. You can disagree with me. You can say that this is the guy you want. We got CJ Gardner-Johnson, who may come back at the end of the year, may not. But the corner is what we need. If you want secondary help, give me a corner, because we're very thin there, and we saw that against the Ravens. All right, so let's see what we can do. I mean, I'm not saying Blackman's bad. He's good. He's very versatile. He's very good, and he can help the injury woes. I get that. But I would honestly rather see someone like Panthers cornerback Dante Jackson. And it's someone you don't have to give up as much for. He's been around the block. He understands what's going on. All right. And not only that, like, you don't necessarily, like, he can compete for the starting corner job with Jerry Jacobs. He might be able to beat him out for it, but he also is just reliable. And I know this sounds bad. He's just not Will Harris, and he's not an undrafted rookie. Like, that is what we have if Brian Branch, Cam Sutton, or Jerry Jacobs get hurt. 3 guys, and your replacement is either Will Harris or an undrafted rookie. At safety, you have Ifeatu Melifonwu, who's shown that he can do pretty good. And I think you can move Branch there too. So that's what I think. That's why I would rather go the corner route. All right, Yahoo Sports has a very interesting one. It's Cardinals wide receiver Marquise Brown. We might know him as Hollywood. He played at Oklahoma. He's been, Another front office said Detroit was interested in the speedy slot receiver. He can play the slot. He can play outside. I think him and St. Brown could do some really fun stuff with the two of them on the field. I think he's a good player. Also, the Arizona Cardinals are in rebuild mode, and I don't know if a guy with his skill set is worth keeping because he doesn't have a long-term contract, and it's one of those things where you don't get better. Bad teams don't get better by paying pretty good money for pretty good players. Bad teams get better by drafting well and finding stars. Like that's kind of the way. I just don't think you make your roster better as a team that is struggling by getting a bunch of okay players. I think Marquise Brown is a good player, so I guess he's not an okay player, but I think he could be perfect for a team like the Detroit Lions. Pro Football Focus says either the Commanders defensive end Chase Young or Jets defensive end Carl Lawson. Chase Young has played in 6 games this year. Chase Young has been injury prone his entire career thus far. He's out of Ohio State, and he was this guy. He was the number 2 overall pick, and he was a can't miss. He was can't miss prospect. And with his 6 sacks that he's had in 6 games, which is impressive, that ties his career high in sacks, if I'm not mistaken. So he is sitting here. Obviously, this says Washington will have interest in re-signing Young to a multi-year deal, but has a decision to make with fellow edge rusher Montez Sweat. They're not going to be able to keep both of them most likely. Young, however, would likely cost a premium draft pick. Here's what I do struggle with, and the Rams did it, and you're seeing what the struggles are for the Rams now. If you continually give up first round picks for proven players and then pay them 20 million a year or 25 million a year or 30 million a year, depending on who it is, you are going to lose ground to teams who consistently draft well in the first round. I'm telling you. Now, I'm not saying you can get a talent like Chase Young with a first round pick that we'll likely have, which will fall somewhere in the 20s or number 32. You see what I did there? Huh? So I don't know what that looks like. There's Carl Lawson, who's a former 4th round pick out of Cincinnati, out of Auburn of the Cincinnati Bengals. He's on a Jets team that's stacked, and he's the 28-year-old at 17 and a half sacks over the past 3 seasons. That one doesn't move the needle for me. So I'm going to ask you what your favorite is. Go ahead, leave that comment. I'm going to tell you one that I think is a unique one. I have 2. I would say, as weird as it sounds, the one that I love is Marquise Brown. I think that would be a phenomenal signing. I think that could take our offense to the next level. The amount of speed that would be on the field, plus the route technician that is St. Brown. You have Laporta coming from the tight end spot. It's just an upgrade. And if Jamison Williams is ready this year, it makes him even better. And it just makes this offense scary. Now, all of a sudden, we have almost Miami type speed on the field. And if he doesn't get there this year, then Marquise Brown is good enough where you can make a deep run into the playoffs with him because it's just flat out better. There needs to be somebody there when St. Brown's gone where it's like, oh, that's still a dude that the defense has to adjust for. I think you need to have that guy. So I like Marquise Brown. And then my number 2, to be completely honest with you, is if you're going to go out and get an edge rusher, get the guy. All right, go get Brian Burns. Go get Chase Young. Go get Danielle Hunter. I don't think they would trade him to us, Minnesota, just because we're in the division. But go get a guy that has the ability to be phenomenal. But Brian Burns is the one more than any, because you have Hutch on one side and him on the other. All of a sudden, your defense, if those two are firing correctly and on all cylinders, you have days where this is by far the best defense in the NFL. That's just the way it goes when you have edge rushers that can do what they do. So those are my likes. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you on the next one. Oh, I didn't even mention it. We are now on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and Facebook. So search us up, Sports Talk Detroit. We're there. We're tweeting. We're doing a lot of stuff live, through games, but also just throughout the week, kind of some fun stuff, some news stuff. And everybody always asks us if we're on socials. So now we are. All right. Hope you enjoyed the video. Talk to you later.